Fido, and welcome to the Pantheon, where we're delving into the deep dungeons of Dungeons and Dragons. There'll be dragons in the dungeons, I believe. Or something like that. Where today we're having a look at Hama Pashar, Ruin Seeker. 3 mana for a 2/3 human wizard. Room abilities of dungeons you own trigger an additional time. That's cool, isn't it? You're basically getting double bubble, every single one of your room abilities. We have it again. So this is a hyper-focused deck, really going for, basically, you're just going to grab all of the cards that, venture into the dungeon and just cram them in there, and then you've got a deck. But there's more to it, I think. There's a couple of different directions we could go with it and a couple of interesting things we can do. But if you want to see more of this sort of stuff, please do subscribe to my channel. I'm going to make one of these for every single legendary creature. We're going to be doing it for quite a time. So anyway, let's have a look at my top 5 for Hama. Hama time. At number 5, we've got things that venture into the dungeon. Midnight Pathlighter is one of the best of them. 3 mana for a 2/3 human wizard. Creatures you control can't be blocked except by legendary creatures, so we can get in past all those tokens, everything else, and whenever one or more creatures you control deal combat damage to a player, venture into the dungeon so we can keep delving in there. And with our commander out, we're going to be venturing twice. So we're going to be getting every single, scry 1. It's going to be scry 1 twice. We're going to get 2 treasures. We're going to draw 2 cards. All that sort of good stuff. We're going to get 2 legendary 4/4s with Death Touch. That bit's not that great, but, there's a lot of cool things we can do. So this card, the evasion is just absolutely fantastic. Then we've got Nadar, Selfless Paladin. 3 mana with a 3/3 Dragon Knight with Vigilance. When it enters the battlefield or attacks, venture into the dungeon, and other creatures you control get +1/+1 as long as you completed a dungeon. Absolutely fantastic. Just keep going over and over again. We're going to be attacking again. Maybe we could build in sort of a Flicker style deck. Then we've got Immovable Rod, which is from the Commander deck. 1 white for an artifact. You may choose not to untap Immovable Rod during your untap step. Whenever it becomes untapped, venture into the dungeon. Then pay 4, tap it for as long as it remains tapped. Another target permanent loses all abilities and can't attack or block. So that's pretty cool removal against, commanders, anything like that. You just say, stop there. Stop it. And, they just cease to exist, basically. So really, really, really nice. I love the artwork on that. I like the whole theme of it, but there's something about that face. It just looks a bit unnerving. I'm not a big fan of that face. But cool card nonetheless. And then we've got Radiant Solar. 6 mana for a 3/6 with Flying and Lifelink. It's an angel. And whenever it or another non-token creature enters the battlefield under your control, venture into the dungeon. Then you can pay 1 and discard it from your hand, venture into the dungeon, and gain 3 life. It's cycling, except with our commander on the field, we're going to get double the effect from the venturing. Really, really cool, really nice. And this is a card you could really build around the sort of enter the battlefield theme. Then in blue, we've got Yonti Malison. What's a Malison? I don't know what's going on. 2 mana for a 2/1 Snake Rogue. Can't be blocked as long as it's attacking alone. So, if you just have this, unblockable, and whenever it deals combat damage to a player, venture into the dungeon. So this could just keep, creating those venture things. And with stuff like this, we could take a couple of extra turns, things like that, to make sure that we can keep venturing into the dungeon. So that's potentially a direction we can go. Then we've got Displacer Beast, 3 mana for a 3/2 Cat Beast. When it enters the battlefield, venture into the dungeon, so really cool with flicker effects. And Displacement for 4 mana, return it to its owner's hand. So that's cool. If your opponent's attacking in with a massive creature, you can put it in front of it, pay that 4 mana, it goes, sucks back up into your hands, go, and then you pay 3 mana and cast it again. It goes back onto the field, and you're going further into the dungeon. I don't know what's happening. Then there's the secret door that you could walk through. I don't know why the door's alive. Maybe it jiggles slightly when you come near. 1 blue for a wall, defender, 0/4. And you pay 5 mana to venture into the dungeon. Activate only as a sorcery. That is really quite crippling. If you could do this at instant speed, you could hold up some counter spells, things like that. But as it stands, 5 mana, it's a hefty investment, but you know, you're going to be getting double that effect from our commander. So quite cool. Which brings me on to my number 4 pick. And with this sort of deck, I wanted to go down a couple of different sort of interesting routes that you could potentially go. And cycling is one of the best ones. Well, not specifically cycling, but wizard sort of cycling. Gem Palm Sorcerer is a 3-mana 2/2 wizard, and this is the theme of it, wizard tribal, because our commander is a wizard. Cycling for 3 mana, so discard this card, draw a card, best mechanic ever printed. And whenever you cycle it, all wizards gain flying until end of turn. So all of our wizards, our commander goes, ascends into this upper atmosphere, and then, you know, slowly floats towards their opponents and then hits them with a stick. Really, really cool. The artwork's fantastic. Look at him. He's got some gems in his hands. Absolutely fantastic. And actually, going back to that, look at in the background, those wizards. Oh, I love it. Brilliant, brilliant. Cool card to put in. Then, if we're going Wizard Tribal, Azami, Lady of Scrolls is an incredible card. 5 mana for a 0/2. Aggressive. And you can tap and untap wizard you control to draw a card. Really, really cool. That gets around Summoning Sickness, so if a wizard's just entered the battlefield, you can tap it straight away. Similarly, we've got Sigil Tracer, 3 mana for a Merfolk Wizard, 2/2. And pay 2, tap 2 untap wizards, copy target inside sorcery spell. You may choose new targets for the copy. This is really cool because you can leave this up, and if our opponent tries to counter one of our spells, we can tap the 2 little wizards, this being one of them maybe, to copy their counter spell to counter their counter spell. It's just countering action. But there's a lot of things you could cast. Maybe like your opponents are playing a big extra turn spell, something like that. We can copy it. There's just so many things you can do with it, and it's all wizard based. Then we got Patron Wizard. Triple blue for a 2/2. It's a wizard, and tap and untap wizard you control. Counter-attack spell, and it's a controller pays 1. This is fantastic. We can just leave this up, and it just corrupts the game. Your opponents are going to be miserable. It's going to be fantastic. And we can just sit there just going, all right, come on, what are you going to do? Okay, yeah, I'll let that happen. Wait, you trying to cast Expropriate? No. Stop. Really, really cool card. And the artwork's pretty nice. Bit of a green sort of robe in the background. Then we got Stony Brook Banneret. 2 mana for a 1/1 with Ironwalk, Merfolk Wizard. Merfolk spells and wizard spells you play cost 1 less to play. Pretty cool, nice bit of reduction. And then we've got Galecaster Colossus, 7 mana for a 5/6 giant wizard. He's just a big boy with a staff. And you can tap and untap wizard you control, return target non-land permanents you don't control to its owner's hand. So this is similar to Patron Wizard. We can just leave this open. All right, our opponents are attacking us with everything. Let's just tap everything. Get it back into your hand. And it just kills any sort of tokens because they return to your hand but just disappear. And then cycling in it. Vidalcan Aether Mage, 2 mana for a Vidalcan Wizard with Flash. And when it comes into play, return target slivered to its owner's hand. That could actually be quite useful. There's a lot of changeling at the moment, you know, knocking around. So that could actually be quite relevant. And, you know, if you ever come up against a sliver player, well, just bounce one of their big important slivers. Fantastic. And the main reason we're playing it, wizard cycling for 3 mana. So discard this card, search your library for a wizard card, reveal it, put it into your hand, and then shuffle your library. Just choose us for whatever key wizard you want to be using. Which brings me on to my number 3 slot. And these sort of cards are really about, you know, a theme. You know, we're going into the dungeons. We want to delve in, and you know, thorough investigation of a dungeon is always needed. 3 mana for an enchantment whenever you attack. Investigate. So investigate is creating a token that you can sacrifice to draw a card, and whenever you sacrifice a clue, venture into the dungeon. So it works on both ways. But this card sort of led me into thinking about clues. And you know, when you're going into a dungeon thematically, you are looking for clues. You're sort of like, oh, what's going on here? There's a blood stain. Why is this large pile of jelly here? I don't know. Let me investigate. And so why don't we go down that sort of route of, you know, investigating clues, you know, things like that. And the names of all these are very similar to sort of what you'd be doing in a dungeon. There's a trail of evidence. We're going to sort of dive in. 3 mana for an enchantment whenever you cast an instant or spell. Investigate. So we're going to be creating one of those clue tokens, and then we can draw some cards. Hopefully those cards will be more things that can delve into dungeons. Really, really nice. And then we search the premises. Just as we're entering a dungeon, we're having a look around. What's going on here? This is crazy. 4 mana for an enchantment whenever a creature attacks you or a planeswalker control. Investigate. So again, card generation. And we're also saying to our opponents, you don't really want to attack us because we're going to have tons of treasures. Then 3-bin inspector. You've got to inspect everything when in the dungeon. What's this? Is it a spike trap? Okay, it is. Let's go around it. 1 mana for a 1/2 when it enters the battlefield. Investigate. So if you're going more down the sort of flicker route, this is a cool card to have in as well. Then with all this investigating, Erdwell Illuminator, it's very similar to our commander really. It's doubling something that we want to be doing. 2 mana for a flying 1/3. Whenever you investigate for the first time each turn, investigate an additional time. Really, really nice. Then Bygone Bishop. This might be a sort of spirit that you find in the dungeon. 3 mana for a 2/3 with flying. Whenever you cast a creature spell with converted mana cost 3 or less, investigate. So we've got a lot of things that are 3 CMC or less, our commander being one of them, so we can just keep getting lots of clues. And then Drownyard Explorers, we were exploring into the dungeon, you see what I mean? 4 mana for a 2/4 when it enters the battlefield, investigate. Pretty goddamn dull. It is a wizard, so it works with all the wizard synergies, but it's thematic, and that's what I wanted to go for. And that brings me on to number 2. When you're in the dungeon, you might find treasure in the treasure vault. So this is an artifact land that taps for a colorless, pay double X and tap and sacrifice it, create X treasure tokens. So we get lots of booty. Absolutely fantastic. We can just spend it on whatever we want. Very, very thematic. And to go along with that, we open the treasure chest. 3 mana for an artifact, pay 4, tap, sacrifice it, roll a d20. If we get a 1, we're trapped. You lose 3 life. What a disaster. Then 2 to 9, you create 5 treasure tokens, so tons of little goodies. But 10 to 19, you gain 3 life and draw 3 cards. That's really, really nice. That's what we want to be hitting. Nice bit of card advantage. But if we get a 20, search your library for a card. If it's an artifact card, put it onto the battlefield. Otherwise, put that card into your hand, then shuffle. So we could tutor up a Blightsteel Colossus. How you got a Blightsteel Colossus into a treasure chest? I don't want to question, your methods. Well done, but please don't in future. It was pretty horrifying to find it in there, just Phyrexian oil and jutting things flying everywhere. Then treasure. We've got to search for it. We're using a treasure map. 2 mana for an artifact. Pay 1, tap, scry 1. Put a landmark counter on treasure map. Then if there are 3 or more landmark counters on it, remove those counters, transform treasure map and create 3 colors artifact treasure tokens that tap to sack and get you 1 mana. Really, really cool. Nice bit of thematic sort of thing going on. Then with all this treasure, we want to go on a little boat journey afterwards. So we're going on a treasure cruise. Choo-choo. That's a train. You don't cruise on a train. What a buffoon I am. But this is a 8 mana sorcery with delve. You delve into the dungeon. Each card you exile and from your graveyard while casting this spell pays for 1 generic. I've got something in my hand. Draw 3 cards. Really, really cool effect. Very nice. It's exactly what we want to see. Which brings me on to my number 1 pick. And this isn't about theme, really. This is more about usability of our commander. So our commander allows all of our dungeons to trigger an additional time. Well, what if we had more than 1 commander? What if we had a Sakashima of the Thousand Faces version of our commander? 4 mana for a 3/1 human rogue. When it enters the battlefield, you can have it come in as a copy of another creature you control, except it has Sakashima 1,000 Faces other abilities. The legend rule doesn't apply to permanents you control. So that means, yes, we have 2 legendary commanders, but the legend rule doesn't exist. It's gone. So they both survive, which means that our rooms will trigger an additional time. So we're going to get 3 versions of it. But why stop at just 2 versions of our commander? Let's have a Helm of the Host. Let's spit out a few more. 4 mana for an equipment at the beginning of combat on your turn creates a token that's a copy of a quick creature. Except that token isn't legendary if a quick creature is legendary. That token gains haste and equip for 5. So this, each turn, can give us another commander. Then we can delve into the dungeon. We're going to trigger 6-7 times. Absolutely fantastic. Then there's also Spark Double. 4 mana for a 0/0. You may have Spark Double enter the battlefield as a copy of a creature or planeswalking control, except it enters with additional 1/1 or an extra loyalty. And if that permanent is legendary, this one isn't. Really, really cool. Having 2 commanders, delving doubly is just so powerful. Well, it's not that powerful, but it's cool anyway. Then we got another Sakashima here, the Imposter. 4 mana, 3/1 human rogue. When it comes into play, you may choose a creature in play. If you do, it comes into play as a copy of that creature, except its name is still Sakashima the Imposter, and it's still legendary. It gains pay 4, return it to its owner's hand at the end of turn. So the cool thing about this is, yes, the legendary rule does still apply, but because its name is still Sakashima, we don't have to sacrifice it because that's what the legendary rule looks for. Exact copies of the name. So another copy of our commander. We can have bloody 12 of them flying around. It's really, really nice. And then Sakashima's Will is another card that's really cool with this. 4 mana for a sorcery. Choose one if you control a commander when you cast a spell. You may choose both. That only works for the original copy of our commander, not copies of it. But target opponent chooses a creature they control. You gain control of it. So a nice little theft effect. And choose a creature you control. Each other creature you control becomes a copy of that creature until end of turn. So if we've managed to copy our commander and made a non-legendary version of it, or the legendary rule doesn't apply, you can have tons and tons of copies of your commander, at least for 1 turn. And then when you delve into that dungeon that gives you, a treasure token, you're going to get 20 treasure tokens. It can be absolutely incredible. Similar card is Mirror Weave, 4 mana for an instant. Each other creature becomes a copy of target non-legendary creature until end of turn. So as long as we've got a non-legendary copy of our commander, we can turn everything into this. And this is really cool sort of removal, if we say our opponents are attacking him with massive creatures, we can turn them all into a 0/2 or maybe everything into a 1/1 and then just block everything and kill it. So this card works fantastically. And then working on a similar basis to the Sakashima Mirror Gallery, 5 mana, the legend rule doesn't apply. So any sort of copy spell is going to get us another commander. So all of our rooms will trigger again. And those are my top 5 cards for this commander. Slightly different take, than usual. Usually I'm more sort of about mechanics, and there is a bit of that here, but it's just a fun card, and it's something that you have to sort of ease off. There's not as much power in this commander, so having fun with it is mainly the sort of direction I wanted to take it in. I hope you've enjoyed this. If you do, please do like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you soon. Bye.